Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Mental Alchemist. I am Samantha, and it is so great to have you guys here with me today. This is the first ever episode of The Mental Alchemist, and the whole point of this podcast is to try to provide a resource and a place for learning, growth, and conversations for people who are struggling with their mental health, and specifically those struggling with emetophobia. I am a former emetophobe. And at one point in my life, that would have felt like an oxymoron. I did not think that it was possible for anybody to ever get over this phobia. With all of the years that I did in therapy and seeing different practitioners, for the longest time, I thought at best I would just be able to learn how to live with it. And yet, here I am, 10 years after going through the Emetophobia Free Thrive program, someone who does not think about vomiting all the time. Well, that's not true. I talk about it every day. So I guess I do actually think about it a lot, but I'm not worried about it. I don't worry about my food. I don't worry about other people. I don't worry about picking it up. When I do feel sick, I'm just not feeling well. And it's not this big catastrophic thing. It's not a panic attack. It just kind of is inconvenient, and then I move on. And I just never imagined that I would ever be at that place. So I've been really, really fortunate to be able to get to have these types of conversations with people who are working on getting over their emetophobia. And for me, my phobia was all-encompassing. It can look a little bit different for everybody, but for me, it was very much every single moment of the day. I would wake up and be anxious because I didn't know if I was hungry or if I was nauseous. This may surprise you, but I was hungry. But I couldn't have told. My brain didn't know. Any physical sensation that I had was something that could have possibly made me sick. Any physical sensation that wasn't accounted for, like I couldn't put a reason behind it, was always something that I would absolutely just lose my mind about. And I was one of those emetophobes that sort of just lived like in the anxiety with your shoulders up to your ears and just waiting for something bad to happen. And then also I panicked nearly every day. It was really, really bad. My food was very heavily restricted. I actually weighed about 85 pounds in my late 20s as a full-grown adult woman. It really touched every part of my life. I had difficulties going anywhere, doing anything, even stuff that doesn't seem related to emetophobia. Like, I remember a friend of mine invited me to go get pedicures, and all I could think was, what if I throw up while I'm getting my toes done? Like, I can't get up and leave. My toes are going to be in water. Like, my feet are in water. There's going to be polish. Like, I can't just get up and leave. What if I throw up? And I couldn't go because I was too afraid. I had a friend out of high school invite me to see my very favorite band. They had an extra ticket. Their brother couldn't go. Do you want to come with us? But I was going to have to ride in a car with someone that I didn't usually ride with. And I was going to be at the mercy of leaving when all these other people wanted to leave. And I passed up tickets to see my favorite band ever for free because I was too afraid of having a panic attack from my emetophobia. There are lots and lots of instances like that in my story. But I think the most defining moment of panic, the one that was really the catalyst for change for me, was when my husband got food poisoning. But I couldn't be sure that it was food poisoning. It could have been the stomach flu in my mind. Forget what he said. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He says it's food poisoning. It could be the stomach flu. And I just left him at our house. And I said, I wish you the best. Have fun with that. And I was absolutely losing my mind. I went to my parents who lived a few minutes down the road, and I got there at like 11:30 at night. And my dad popped his head out of his bedroom and he said, hey, just nobody drink out of the orange juice. I've been throwing up. And I remember thinking, oh my God, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And just being in this spiral, thinking this is literally my worst nightmare come true. How am I going to get through this? And I decided to go home because my dad's a bit of a menace. I mean, who drinks orange juice after throwing up? And I felt like my house was more contained and more safe, and I could be sure, what was contaminated and what wasn't. And my husband thought it was food poisoning. Who knows what my dad has? So I went home and I stayed up till the sun came up. I drugged myself on Finagrin and Xanax, trying to keep calm. These were all the things that I did, by the way. I had this rule that I couldn't go to sleep until the sun came up if I felt nauseous or if I was panicking, which was a ridiculous rule, but yet I had it. And the next week or two, all I had morning and night to eat was a Clif Bar. Specifically, it was the white chocolate chip macadamia nut Clif Bars. And I realized I was literally only eating enough to keep myself alive. And this just wasn't sustainable. Not only did I leave my husband when he actually needed me, he was really sick. I couldn't go get him any sort of electrolytes the next day. I sort of just left him to fend for himself. And not that he can't, but it's kind of nice to have somebody there supporting you when you don't feel well. But I was limiting my entire life to where I was just kind of existing. And that was really my catalyst to go, something has to change here. I cannot keep doing this. This is simply not sustainable. And so I looked up different emetophobia treatment programs on my side of the country, which is the East Coast. And I found this exposure therapy program at Boston Medical University. It was going to cost me in 2015 $6,000, which, let's be clear, I did not have $6,000. I was going to be taking out a small loan or a credit card. I was going to do a GoFundMe. I had to find some kind of way to pay for it. And I did not want to do this exposure therapy. And let's be really honest here. I don't think most people, emetophobic or non-emetophobic, would want to do a emetophobic specific exposure therapy because some of the exposures are crazy. They're just really gross. I remember I had a client who was telling me her final emetophobia exposure was to use a public restroom, not wash your hands, and then eat a slice of pizza. I am so sorry, but emetophobic or not, that's gross. And I don't think anybody would like that. So needless to say, I was absolutely dreading this, and I went on a deep dive on the internet to try to find reviews for the exposure therapy program. And I actually came across a YouTube video of this just sweet little old lady named Mary. And Mary was 81 years old. She had been emetophobic for 76 years. And this was her story about how she got over it. And I listened, and for the first time, I was hearing a story that was so similar to mine. She had quit her job because it was at a school and she felt like she couldn't be around kids because they were just too high of an exposure. She never had children of her own. She had been diagnosed with cancer and refused chemotherapy and radiation, which is a conversation I had had with my husband. Was that, like, if I get cancer, I'm just going to have to die because I'm not doing chemotherapy. Chemotherapy might not make me better, but it will make me throw up, and I can't do that. And so I was listening to Mary talk about how she's now over this phobia. And I'm like, what? How is that even possible? And apparently she had gone through something called the Emetophobia Free Thrive program. So I had looked it up, and I ordered the book, and I got a coach because I needed a coach. I had the best of intentions, but garbage follow through, so I needed somebody to hold me accountable. And as I'm starting through this manual and I'm reading and I'm learning about how my brain works, I'm going, oh my God, like this book was written for me. Nothing had ever made me feel so understood. And just knowing that the way my brain worked was something that this person, and I say this person, Rob Kelly is the creator of the Thrive program, and he's a fantastic therapist out of the UK. He understood what it was that I was thinking and how my brain was working. And that was such a huge separation from all the other experiences that I had, which was all of these different therapists and practitioners telling me, well, it's not, the phobia, you're OCD, or you have mild agoraphobia, or you just have panic disorder. It's just this chemical imbalance. It's just how you are. I finally had this thing in front of me that made sense. And I went through the program, and at the end of the 8 weeks, my anxiety was really reduced about 70-75%, which is just bonkers. I was constantly anxious with panic attacks in between, like that constant just waiting for something bad to happen. And for my anxiety to be reduced that much, I had never experienced anything like it. And it really took me about a year or so to get to where I was confident in my ability to handle myself feeling unwell, or somebody else around me feeling unwell, and actually being exposed to vomiting. But if you're an emetophobe, you know that you have tons of anxiety even when you're not exposed. So imagine if the only time you created that anxiety and panic was when you were actually exposed. Like, how much different would your life look? And that's what I was seeing for the first time in my entire life. And it felt incredible. And I've always had the gift of communication and being able to explain things really well to people. And I've always wanted to help. And going through my emetophobia journey was so disheartening because no one could ever help me. I felt like there was this moral obligation for me to try to help people as well. And because of that, I went through the training program to become a licensed coach. I was licensed in April 2017, and I have been working with emetophobes for the last, coming up on 8 years now, which is just awesome. This started out as something that I really felt like I had to do. Now it's something that I love to do. Being able to help people who are emetophobic get over this fear and change their lives has been the biggest joy of my life. I love my job. I love this job. I love getting to talk to you guys. I love getting to help you feel more hopeful, helping you understand that you don't have to stay this way. It has just been the best thing. And that's where this podcast comes in, is the ability to keep connecting and provide a resource for people who are either at the beginning of their emetophobia journey, they're towards the end of it, and just really trying to strengthen the skills that they've learned. I want to be sure that I am able to pass what I have learned on to you and help you maybe navigate the mistakes that I made or the stumbles that I had a little bit better than I did. And that's why I actually have gathered a few different questions that I've received on social media, and I wanted to take a minute to answer those. And again, I plan to do this on every podcast episode. This is the point, is getting to have these types of conversations. So the first one that I received was, what do you do to get yourself feeling good again when you are in a spiral? And I will tell you, it's been about 5 or 6 years now that I've been in a spiral. However, right after going through the program, I had a massive panic attack. I was ill, I was not feeling well, I was not at home, and I created all of this panic about it. And I wasn't throwing up, but I was very sick. And I was so upset with myself, and I got so disheartened, and all of my catastrophic thoughts just sort of flooded in, and I didn't really do anything to manage them in the moment. And so I got a hold of my coach, and I said, what is happening? Like, why is this coming back? I was doing so good. I just don't understand. And he was like, Sam, you gotta remember, it doesn't just come back. This isn't just happening to you. This phobia is created and maintained. Let's look at how this is different. And we talked, and he really pointed out how, okay, so you did have a panic attack. You didn't take as much of your medication as you usually do. You didn't stay up all night, which is an old safety-seeking behavior. You did eat food the next day. You didn't call out of work. All of those things are different from what I would have done before. And he said, now you know where you need to strengthen your skills. So pick up your book and get back to it. And that's what I did. And so I think the best thing to know if you are going through the program, if you are going through your emetophobia recovery journey, if you have a blip, if you have a wobble, if you have a spiral, if you have a panic attack, okay, you are a human being. You have practiced this phobia probably your entire life. You are going to have weak moments while you are trying to build the skills and the methods you need to get over this phobia. That is okay. The first thing you need to do when you are in a spiral is to get perspective. This is a single moment in time. It does not negate all of the work that you have done up until that point. And now, because you've gone through this spiral, you have a really clear idea of the areas you need to continue to put work into. So my best advice on how to get feeling back to yourself after a spiral is acknowledge it for what it was. Don't get catastrophic about it. Don't beat yourself up. Acknowledge what happened. Say, okay, here's where I can do things differently the next time I feel this way. And make a plan to get back to work and keep moving forward. The best thing you can do in a spiral is get the perspective, acknowledge it, make a plan, and move on. It does you no good to sit and obsess and get frustrated with yourself and get down on yourself and start back into the negative self-talk. The only thing that's going to do is keep you feeling bad, and it's just not worth it. So that's how I would tell my clients to work through a spiral. That's how I had to work through my spirals. And I think anybody who's had those weak moments can tell you, you have the opportunity to take those moments and let it light a fire under your butt and get back to work. Like, you can use those moments as catalysts for change. When I went through my panic attack, I took myself through the program a second time. That's what I did. That was what that spiral did for me. And had I not done that, it probably would have taken me even longer to start feeling better. So, perspective, guys, it is absolutely key. Absolutely key. The other question that I got that I really liked was, what was the hardest part of getting over emetophobia for you? And that is a fantastic question, because the hardest part for me is what I also think is likely the hardest part for a lot of people, and that is staying consistent. I had a really difficult time with consistently building the skills that I needed, doing the exercise that I knew I needed to do, and making the changes I needed to make. And I really see that a lot now as a coach. My clients who do the homework, do the extra reading, watch the videos, listen to the podcasts, my clients that immerse themselves in hearing and practicing the new ways of thinking in the new language, at week 6, they're where I was at 8 months. And the reason for that is I really struggled building that consistency. I really would only work on specific things when I had a bit of a wobble and when I had a difficulty. I would go, oh, okay, I need to fix that. And then I would go back and start to work on it. Had I been actively trying to build the skills that I needed, like building my self-esteem, building my coping skills, and we can get deeper into that in other episodes, why those two things have anything to do with emetophobia, because I'm sure those of you who aren't familiar with the program are like, what is she talking about? Self-esteem? What does that have to do with emetophobia? Everything. It has everything to do with emetophobia. But had I really been working on building those things consistently, I would have felt so much better, so much faster. And that's a point that I really try to make to my clients, to really try to drive home to them, hey, the more effort you put into this, the more relief you're going to get out of it, even faster. And it's really incredible to see how some of these baby steps, just these really small changes, as long as you make consistently, they have a huge impact on your mental health and on your emetophobia. And that is truly where my sore spot was being able to be consistent. We have lots of different resources now to help you stay consistent and help you engage in different lines of thinking. And just know that even if it's only 15 minutes a day, that's still consistent. That's still effort. So I think as you're going through your emetophobia recovery journey, knowing that you're going to have to put work in a little bit every day, but it's worth it in order to get past this phobia and really start to be able to live your life, it will be a lot easier to do the work that you need to do. So, with that, I'm going to let you guys know that I have all of my socials and information linked down in the show notes. I really want, again, to create this as a resource to continue having conversations about emetophobia recovery, and just really help you guys have a little bit of hope that it is possible to not have to just live with this fear all the time. My goal is to bring some guests on to have some good conversations so you can get perspective from me and from other people on how they feel about some of your questions, what their journey looked like, because no two emetophobe's journeys are exactly the same. The phobia presents in different ways because it's truly all about how you're thinking about it. And I really hope that it's something that is encouraging to you guys. So please like and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave me a review. Anything that's written helps the algorithm push the show out to people who may really need to hear it. And I'm very excited to get so much more out for you guys, get your questions answered, bring in people for you to hear and know that you are not alone. It has been so great to have this opportunity. I hope everyone has the best day, and please go take care of yourselves.